Hello everyone. In this weekend on the Formula 44 meditational techniques, we take up the 6th chapter from Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, and try to learn the main concepts and the philosophy and the knowledge which is spoken about by Lord Shri Krishna in this chapter. So prior to chapter 6, we have 5 chapters which are Arjun Vishad Yog, chapter 1, lamentation by Arjun about the consequences of the war. Chapter 2, which is called Sankhya Yog, the analytical study of the spiritual science. Third chapter is Karma Yog, the Yog of action. What is the philosophy of karma? And the 4th chapter is more about the knowledge, Dhyān Karma Sannyāsī Yog, the Yog of knowledge. The 5th chapter is about renunciation, the Yog of sannyāsī. And the 6th chapter, which we will summarize today, is about Dhyān, the meditation. So Arjun's lamentation, analytical study, law of karma, knowledge, renunciation and meditation. These 6 chapters are covered in the first 1/3 of Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God. We all know that in the first chapter, Arjun kept lamenting that he shouldn't be participating in the war. And he says, Visrijyam shasharam chapam shok samvigna manasaha eva muktva Arjun sankhye rathopastha upavishat. So Arjun had sat down on the chariot before Shri Krishna and he discarded his bow and arrow. And in the 2nd chapter, the Lord started to speak to him, first chastised him. Klaibyam asmagamaha partha nai tattvaya upapadyate chudram hridaya daurbalyam tyakto tishta parantapo. But Arjun still kept on putting forth his own points, lamentation that it's better to beg for alms rather than to participate in this battle. And then the Lord took over. He spoke about his state of mind, which is not befitting his stature. And then he talked about the soul. And actually we never kill anyone. No one can be killed. The body is in any way insentient. The sentient soul is eternal and it is always going to be there. So he spoke extensively about the soul. And then in that chapter, he spoke about the duties, swadharma. He spoke about the futility of participating in so many ritualistic performances as per Vedas. Then he spoke about the karma yoga, karmanyavadika raste ma phaleshu kadachana, and in that context he talked about the importance of controlling the mind, the state of sthit pragya, and how mind management has to be understood and learnt. Dhyayato vishyapunsa sangateshu pujayate vihaya kaman ya sarvan pumanscharti nispriyaha, resulting in the final shlok, Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthitva shyam antakalepi brahma nirvana richati. One can attain the complete peace and the complete bliss. And in the 3rd chapter, Shri Krishna dwelt on the karma yoga, that what is preventing us from this state of complete bliss, complete peace, and that is our lack of control on our desires. So the last verse of the 3rd chapter ends with the same theme. Jahi Shatru Mahabaho Kam Rupam Durasadam. It's the pernicious desire which is the biggest stumbling block. Shri Krishna does not deny us the use of the world, but use of the world should be to elevate ourselves and not to degrade. That's all he says. Then The fourth chapter spoke about Dhyān, knowledge. Knowledge is a key factor, it's very important. But what should the knowledge do? The last verse says, Chitvainam sanshaya gyatva tvam gyatva mam shantim richati. It should ensure that we have access to the ultimate peace and complete bliss and peace. So everywhere it is talking about the peace and the bliss and how to control the mind and how to not get too involved with the world, use the world only to attain our spiritual goal, which is the attainment of bliss, uninterrupted bliss and uninterrupted peace, which is another name of God. The fifth chapter, again, the renunciation was explained, and the fifth chapter ended with a very beautiful shlok. Bhoktaram yajna tapsa sarvalok maheshwaram shuhridam sarvabhutanam. That shlok, wherein the Lord explains that you want to attain the peace and the bliss, karma yoga is the method. Do your work diligently and with full concentration, but we should not be attached to the fruits of the result, because that is not in our hand, that is in the hands of the divine. And after all this, we come to sixth chapter, which begins with the first verse, anāśhritaḥ karma-phalaṁ kāryaṁ karma karoti sannyāsī ca yogī ca na niragnir na chākriyaḥ. So the Lord says, it is just not enough to shun the work or become a sannyāsī. Who is the real sannyāsī? The one who is renounced in his mind. Otherwise, just by wearing saffron robe and going into a secluded place, one does not become a renunciate, because the mind can still be in the world. So the Lord finally recommends that one can be in the world, but if the mind is controlled, we are not too entangled in the world, and focus on our work. Let the divine take care of the results, which will always be beneficial. So, in the fifth verse, in the sixth chapter, the Lord said, uddhared ātmanātmānaṁ, nātmānam avasādayet, ātmaiva, yajna, bandhur ātmaiva, ripur ātmanāḥ. So elevate your soul by the power of your mind and do not degrade it. Because mind is both the enemy and the friend. And then from the 10th, 11th verse, the Lord starts talking about the methods. Shucho dese pratisthapya isthirmas nātmānam natyuśhritam nātinīcham chailajin kushotaram. He talks about how we should sit in the meditation, and the asana, the seat should not be too high, too low. The place should be conducive to the meditation. We should sit in a straight, erect manner, and we should also practice control, brahmacharya, celibacy, etc. All that is spoken about in these verses. And when we come to the 20th verse, we have already learnt about the work-life balance, which was there in the 17th verse, yuktahar viharasya yukta chestasya karmasu yukta sapnava bodhasya yogo bhavati dukkha. So the Lord very clearly explains that if you are indulgent in food or very casual, you do not eat the right quantity and quality of food, you do not sleep the right quantity and quality, your life is just work and no play, or only play, no work, this is not going to help. There should be the work-life balance, and he explains the 4 elements so well. The sleep, the recreation, the food, and the work must be performed in temperate and moderation. And he gives an example, yatha dipo nivatastho nengate sopma smita. Like the lamp in a windless place remains steady. That's how our mind has to be trained. Then we hear the Lord talk about that the beauty of doing this is such that one always gains and there is never a loss, and there is never the sorrow. And then we come to a very important verse, which is verse number 30th. Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam mai ya pashyati tashyaham na pranashyami sacha mena pranashyati. So in such a state, when we have attempted to control the mind, attempted to learn to become temperate, learn the techniques of celibacy, etc., then we start seeing the divine hand in every situation, in every place, everywhere, in everyone. And when we reach such a state, we are never lost by the Lord, and we never lose the Lord. So this chapter has 47 verses. So the 34th and the 35th verse are also very much well-known, iconic. Talks about the fickleness of mind, because Arjun is raising a question. When Krishna talks so much about the control of mind, Arjun says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishnam pramati balvadridham tashyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkaram. Shri Krishna, you are asking me to become controlled in my mind, but the mind is so fickle, it's so obstinate, it is so strong, it is so restless. It is like holding the wind, trying to hold the wind. How is it possible? So Shri Krishna responds and agrees with Arjun, yes, the mind is really, really very much restless and difficult to control, but he does not say impossible to control. He gives the formula. Ashanshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairāgyena ca grihate. It is indeed very difficult to control the mind, but with detachment and with practice, one can achieve that. Then Arjun raises another question. What about someone who is listening to you and has attempted to do whatever you are instructing, but then he does not meet with the success in this life? His life is cut short, he dies. So the Lord gives a very beautiful answer. Parth naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgati tat gacchati. The accumulated merit will never be lost. It will be carried forward in the next life. So there is never a loss on this path. So finally, what is the conclusion? The conclusion is there are these 3 categories: tapasvi, ascetic; karmi, the man of action; and jnani, the man of knowledge. But if you are not connecting it with the divine, you are not a yogi. So Sri Krishna says, become a yogi. And therefore he declares in this verse, tapasvi bhyo diko yogi jnani bhyo pi matodhika karmish karmischa diko yogi, karmibhyascha diko yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. O Arjun, become a yogi, which is a superior person than a karmi, the man of action, the jnani, the man of knowledge, and tapasvi, the ascetic. And in the last verse, he declares, yoginam api sarvesham mad gatenantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yo mam same yukta tamo mataha. And the one yogi who is meditating on me, who is thinking of me, is the highest of all. Amazing knowledge in the 6th chapter. Now it becomes so much clearer because we have been reading for the last so many years, many times, and it is getting more and more nectarian, delightful, and beneficial to us. So let us remember to keep practicing Formula 44, the 4 elements of the food and water techniques and the 4 elements of the exercise techniques, and time to time dwell on the message of Bhagavad Gita, the Song of God, the eternal Granth, the eternal treatise of knowledge, which is not confined to any particular religion or particular sect. It is applicable to the entire humanity, because Bhagavad Gita has been spoken by the Lord from eternity. That's what he said in the chapter 4, verse 1. Imam vivasvate yogam proktavanaham abhyam. Vivasvan manur ikchvake bravita. Vivasvan manve praha manur ikchvake bravita. O Arjun, don't be bewildered. I have always been there. He says, my birth is divine and my acts are divine. I am always there. I am eternal. I am God. So he says, I have always been speaking about this knowledge, and time to time the knowledge is lost. So again I am talking to you. But last I spoke, this knowledge was with the sun god Vivaswan. He passed it on to his son Manu, and Manu passed it on to his son Ikshvaku, and that's how the tradition continues. So hope the 6th chapter summary was useful. Next we will do even a more in-depth summary covering every 5th verse. Today we tried to cover every 10th verse and a few more iconic verses from the 6th chapter. But hope it improves our meditation and our quest for bliss and peace keeps increasing. Take care. See you.